Hello and welcome to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience of doing over 1,000 days of NoFap and why you shouldn't do the same as me. So I got into NoFap about 10 years ago. I had erectile dysfunction with my first girlfriend and I wanted to overcome that problem. So I get into going on these streaks, and the streaks, to be honest, they were getting longer and longer. You know, I started off probably on like maybe a 1 day or a 3 day streak, and then kind of goes up to like 14 days. And then I'd hit a new milestone as such and get to 30 days and think, yeah, brilliant, I'm making loads of progress, and would feel really proud of myself and confident until the inevitable relapse, because I did always end up relapsing. And every time I relapsed, I'd end up finding it really hard to actually get back on one of these longer streaks. And I'd basically be binging and edging for a few days, but each time I'd, kind of come back and be like, okay, this is it. Never going to look at porn again. Feel really motivated. And life would, to be honest with you, life would be a lot better on these long streaks. Like, I do believe that NoFap does lead to people feeling better in life, right? And in that time, I did make a lot of good changes in my life. I began to work a pretty good job working in tech and spending some good time with like my best friends from school and going on some nice holidays with my family, making new friends as well. So people from my running club, and really got into running as well, doing 10 kilometers every day for a little while, and started this podcast. And that was really cool, and getting to talk to like some interesting people on this podcast. And then like working out and playing football regularly, going on races and sort of competing and finding that really fun. Started some volunteering work during this time as well at the Samaritans. And then also set up my own book club, which is really nice, a good place to sort of just talk about books with local people in my community. So during that time of doing these NoFap streaks, life did improve in some ways, but I'd always end up relapsing. And ultimately, I just did not trust myself. And so the reality is, although things did improve in many areas of my life, I was still working this 9-to-5 job that I didn't actually fully love. It didn't really fulfill me. And I always wanted to set up my own business. I also was still going out, drinking quite regularly with friends and engaging in behaviours where everyone around me was participating in those behaviours. And then afterwards, I'd always feel like really scared of engaging with porn, because on like a hangover, I'd have like these intense urges and I just didn't have the ability to actually trust myself at all. I also felt really unstable because I had this inconsistency in my life. As I say, I'd do these NoFap streaks, and then when I did actually relapse, I'd feel completely depleted of energy, lack confidence, lack integrity, feel tons of shame, and just not be the same person that I was the day before. And I remember a few times, I'd go out with friends, and if I just relapsed like literally the day before or on that day, I just would be a completely different person. I'd go so inward, I'd be so shy, I wouldn't be confident at all. And it was just a really, really bad place. I remember one time in particular, it was Pride weekend in Manchester, and we were out on Canal Street, and honestly, I was just like the shell of the man I usually am. And I think people really picked up on that vibe as well, and they were just like not really enjoying me being there particularly. And I went home early, and it was just such a depressing and dark time, to be honest. I also was very, just generally scared of myself and not knowing when I would next relapse. And so I had all these conditions in my life, feeling like I had to meditate every day, or I had to journal, or I had to work out and stay really busy and really productive. And I also was very scared of any confrontation or problems in life, because I knew that that could lead to these triggers or these urges where I'd feel really emotionally vulnerable, and that could lead to me getting completely out of control and engaging with porn. And then also in terms of football, I was so inconsistent, and that led to me being on the bench all the time, and that was just super frustrating. So it kind of felt like there were these two sides to me. There's the side that sometimes would be like really confident and outwardly social, and then there's also this part of me which was generally scared and kind of felt like this young child. So there's these two sides to me, and I'd often try my best to present the really confident and social side to the rest of the world. But inwardly, I still had this problem, and I'd be thinking about it so often. Whether I was on a long streak or I just relapsed, the problem was on my mind very, very often. Now, fortunately, I've learned how to stop porn addiction correctly through getting a lot of help from someone called Mary Paulus, who's my mentor. In that time, since actually overcoming this problem for good, my life has changed entirely. I now run my own business, and I've, had the confidence and the trust in myself to leave the 9 to 5 job I was working, which is great. Feel 100% confident in myself, just complete trust. I'm going out to a party tonight, for example, and I don't know yet whether I'm going to fancy a few beers or not, but if I do, I know for absolute certain that tomorrow there's no way I would end up looking at porn. Even if I felt hungover and was like feeling some desire, it's like there's literally zero chance of me looking at porn. And it's not that opportunity or that choice isn't there. I can do that. It's just I know I'm not going to choose that because I know how to deal with any urge entirely, right? That also leads to me feeling really like stable and grounded, and I have this consistency in my life, and I can just like chill out in my apartment or do whatever I want really without feeling like, if I do this activity, that could lead to urges, that could lead to me relapsing. I now know how to deal with any urge, and so I feel really comfortable within myself, and just chilling out on my own in my apartment's cool. I did that for a few hours last night. I was just like chilling, reading a book, and didn't feel like I had to be like super busy or do anything necessarily. In terms of football, though, still on the bench. So that's the one where things aren't going too well. So I'm just sort of playing five-a-side instead. But yeah, overall life's pretty good. Feeling pretty steady and good, and enjoying still going on like some cool holidays and spending time with friends, family, with my girlfriend. And yeah, life's just way better basically now that I've quit porn. So, and when I say quit porn, really what I've done is I've changed my addictive neural pathways, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit today as well. So what we really want to do, if we want to actually stop this behaviour correctly, is stop doing these NoFap streaks. I've literally done over 1,000 days of NoFap, probably closer to 2,000 days if I'm honest. But that didn't change my brain correctly. That didn't lead to the freedom, the peace of mind that I was actually seeking, the freedom that I really truly wanted. And this is why. It's because if we start off with an addiction, we have these addictive neural pathways. We have this psychological, emotional dependency on a mind, mood-altering experience. That's the real problem, right? And we go on NoFap, and we're counting these days. Well, every time we relapse, we're just strengthening the addiction, and we feel like we're making progress, and we feel like things are getting better because maybe the NoFap streaks are getting longer, for example, but each time we relapse, we're just intermittently reinforcing these addictive neural pathways. And when we zoom out and look at things over a longer period of time, and let's say you look back at me over the last 10 years, for example, doing these NoFap streaks, well, actually, during that whole 10 years, I was still in the addiction. So that's where I completely went wrong, is I had this goal of getting to a certain amount of days, but I wasn't actually changing the brain correctly. I wasn't actually fundamentally changing those neural pathways that were addicted, those really compulsive neural pathways. So what we want to do instead is set a completely different goal. The goal should be peace of mind. The goal should be free from compulsive desire, knowing how to deal with any urge at any moment and feeling totally in control, trusting yourself entirely. And to get there, so we start off again with the addiction, that's where we're at right now. And what's going to happen is you are going to experience urges, you are going to experience desires, because that's just how the brain's wired at this point. And every time you have that desire, you have a choice. You either strengthen or you weaken those addictive neural pathways. And at first, it will be a lot more difficult. And if we choose to engage with the compulsive behaviour, we're just going back into the addiction. So it's absolutely essential that we choose every single time we have this urge to weaken these addictive neural pathways and actually think through that choice correctly. And what happens is if you keep on thinking through the urge correctly time and time again, the urges lessen. You're not going to have as many urges. You start to feel a lot more in control of yourself. You start to trust yourself. And then eventually you get to embrace real permanent mental freedom as you've now changed those addictive neural pathways. But it's through dealing with those urges directly and connecting to them and thinking through them that we eventually get to experience real peace of mind, and permanent mental freedom is absolutely possible. What I'll do is I'll leave you with a quote by Marcus Aurelius. I went to the cinema this week and watched Gladiator 2, and it got me thinking again about this quote, which is genuinely my favourite ever quote, which is, all you need in life are these: certainty of judgment in the present moment, action for the common good in the present moment, and an attitude of gratitude in the present moment for anything that comes your way. Now, NoFap is all about the past or the future, keeping these streaks, and it can really take us away from the present moment and our choice in that moment. Because every single moment we have our own choice. We have the power, the freedom to choose for ourselves what we want to do. And the addicted part of the mind will try get us thinking about streaks and days and how things are going to feel in the future or what you've done in the past. And all of that takes us away from the moment where the changes in the brain are actually made. And so what we really want to do is get back into the present moment, no longer count any days, and actually start to rewire the brain for good, just moment by moment. I really hope this video can help you. And if you do want to learn more about the Beyond Compulsion method, there will be a link in the description so you can book a one-on-one call with me, or you can take the compulsion test and discover whether you are also addicted to pornography. Thanks so much for watching or listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.